Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
This is not an ordinary exchange in Congress. This is the moment Chris Van Hollen forces Todd Blanche onto defense over a massive $1.80 billion anti-weaponization fund, a fund Van Hollen calls by a much harsher name, a political slush fund in disguise. The question is simple. Could people who attack Capitol Police, people convicted of violent crimes, still be eligible to receive money from this fund? But instead of giving a clear answer, no, they will be excluded. Todd Blanche dodges, circles around the issue, and tries to shift responsibility to the commissioners managing the fund. And Van Hollen does not let him escape. He exposes the key point directly. Blanche has the power to appoint 4 of the 5 people controlling this fund. So do not pretend you have no influence. Do not pretend you are just watching from the sidelines. If this fund can open the door for violent offenders to apply for payouts, then responsibility cannot disappear behind vague legal language. Then the confrontation explodes even further when the Epstein files are brought into the hearing. Van Hollen presses Blanche on the victims, on the names inside the Epstein files, and especially on one chilling question. Will the Justice Department commit to not recommending a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell? But the real climax comes when Blanche accuses Van Hollen of lying. Immediately, Van Hollen shuts him down with a line that cuts through the hearing room like a blade. Don't ever do that again. Do you know it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress? A $1.80 billion fund. A fight over abuse of power. The Epstein files. Evasive answers. And one senator refusing to let Todd Blanche hide behind legal wordplay. This is the kind of confrontation that makes the entire room go silent.
Van Hollen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney General, this is an outrageous, unprecedented slush fund that you set up. Simple question, will individuals who assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible for this fund?
Well, as it makes plain, anybody is...
Just let me know if they're eligible for the fund.
As was made plain yesterday, anybody in this country is eligible to apply if they believe they were victim of weaponization.
Mr. Attorney General, let me ask you this. Are there going to be rules that say that if you've assaulted a Capitol Hill police officer or committed a violent crime, you will not be eligible? Why not make that a rule?
I expect that, because I'm not one of the commissioners setting up the rules, I expect that there will be rules.
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members, aren't you, Mr. Attorney General?
Pardon me?
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members.
I am appointing all 5 members.
You can certainly set up the rules. I would hope you would make a rule that anyone convicted of assaulting a police officer or a violent crime is simply not eligible. They should not apply.
Well,
let me ask you this, because you compared it to the Keepsiegel case. But I think you know full well that in that case, the settlement agreement was approved by a federal judge, including the payments to people who were not originally parties to the lawsuit. No federal judge has approved this fund, have they, Mr. Attorney General?
No federal judge did approve this.
So that's a big difference between this case and the case that you compared it to.
No, it's not.
Did a judge sign off on this case?
No.
A judge did sign off on the other one.
Yes, but your question was whether it's a big difference. It's not.
Of course it is, because that allows for an independent person to look at it rather than the
There was no independence. There was no independence.
Attorney.
There was a single commissioner. A judge signed off on it. A judge had nothing to do with deciding the money.
There was a judge who looked at it and signed off on it. So to compare that case to this one is incredibly deceptive. Let me ask you this about the Epstein case, because as we speak, many Epstein survivors are in New York. They're reading portions of the Epstein files about the abuse that they suffered. Otherwise, they might have been here with us today. At a House hearing, your predecessor refused to acknowledge the pain experienced by some of those victims when the administration improperly released their names and identifying information. So I want to know where you stand. I spoke to the representatives of some of the Epstein survivors yesterday. They are extremely frustrated that you keep calling for people to come forward with more evidence, but you have not met with them to hear their stories. So simple question. If I connect you with these survivors, will you meet with them?
Absolutely. And what you just said is false. I have met with them. I've met with many of the lawyers for the survivors of victims, as did Attorney General Bondi. So whoever told you that, unfortunately, gave you bad information.
Okay.
But I would encourage them to reach out to the Department of Justice, because like we do every single day, we absolutely care for victims, and we absolutely want to hear from them and their lawyers.
Well, I've been told directly from the representatives they've not had a chance, at least this group, to meet with you. So
Did they represent that they asked?
So I'm glad to hear that.
Did they represent they asked for a meeting?
Can I ask you to commit that the Justice Department will not recommend a pardon for anyone named in the Epstein files?
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
Can you commit that the Justice Department, you, the acting Attorney General, will not recommend a pardon for people named in the Epstein files?
When you say people named, there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of, quote, people named.
How about Ghislaine Maxwell? Can you commit that you will?
Yes, I can commit to that, of course.
Okay. Let me go back to this slush fund, because there's also an individual who, after being pardoned by the president, went on to molest 2 children. And that person actually tried to buy the silence of these children by saying that he would pay them some of the funds that he was hoping to get from your slush fund. Can you commit to making the rule so that that person is not eligible for a payout under this fund?
Well, you're obviously lying in your question, because there's no way that this person committed to that. But the slush fund, as you call it, which is not, didn't exist.
I'm certainly
but I
not
can
lying.
commit.
Mr. Attorney General, don't ever do that again. I am reporting
do what again?
what he said. He said on the expectation that he hoped to get some of the funds from a payout. He's been
From
hearing
the,
what
you
we've
said
all
from
been
the
hearing.
slush fund, Senator, and that didn't exist when he said that.
This is the fund that the president and all of you have been telegraphing all along that you're going to use to help the president's friends.
Can you point to a
Mr.
single
Attorney General,
telegraph
I have a
I
last
made?
question.
What telegraph did I
have a last question for
Okay.
you. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Todd Blanche walked into that hearing as if vague legal language could cover up the entire problem. But Chris Van Hollen exposed the weakest point immediately. A $1.80 billion fund without clear moral guardrails is not justice. It is an open door for abuse of power. The most outrageous part is not just that Blanche dodged the question. It is that he could not say one simple sentence. People who attack Capitol Police, people convicted of violent crimes, will not receive money. That should have been an easy no. But instead, Blanche circled around it, shifted responsibility, talked about commissioners, procedures, and eligibility, all to avoid making the most obvious commitment. And when he was pushed into a corner, Blanche chose to attack back, accusing Van Hollen of lying. That was the moment that revealed his weakness. When he could no longer defend the argument, he went after the person asking the question. But Van Hollen did not back down. He reminded Blanche straight to his face that lying to Congress is a criminal offense, and that was the blow that made Blanche's entire performance look pathetic. Todd Blanche did not just fail to answer. He failed to show the transparency, accountability, and basic ethical judgment expected from someone in the Justice Department. A person with influence over a $1.80 billion fund cannot say, "I am not responsible," and still expect the public to believe everything will be fair. If this is truly anti-weaponization, then why does it look so much like a political tool? And if Blanche really wants to protect justice, why is he unwilling to shut the door from the beginning on violent offenders? That evasion is exactly why this hearing exploded, because it showed power trying to hide behind words while responsibility was pushed away like something nobody wanted to touch.